balance changes in Content Update 2.1.0. Alongside the release of the Talisman slash 2.1 update this week, we're making changes to various skills and game mechanics. Our aim is to facilitate more interesting choices when creating a character with fewer incorrect choices, which certainly exist right now. Where possible, we've tried to achieve this by raising the power level of underused or underpowered game mechanics rather than with numerical nerfs. That's what you all want to hear. However, a few skills that were clearly overpowered have been adjusted to a more appropriate level. Firstly, there's an entire rework to the poison system. Read more about it here. Is that old? Or is that something... It's the old shit, right? Yeah. Alright, so spell damage progression buffed to shit. Spell damage was starting to fall behind attack damage later in the game, so we've increased the per level damage increases of many spells. Cool. Most spells have increased in damage by 20% at gem level 20. That's pretty big. And those that weren't performing well later in the game have been increased even further. We've reduced the area effect bonuses available in the tree slightly, but increased the base radius of some skills that were smaller than others, like Stormcall and Cascade, as well as any corpse-destroying effects like Detonate Dead and Abyssal Chrome. That's good news. You have to invest less in AoE while picking up skills. I don't get why they're saying that, but, you know, like Stormcall. Stormcall with enough AoE was huge. So, okay, give us more of that. Substantially buffed Melee Splash, only about 2 years overdue, no big deal. Melee Splash has been increased in many ways, dealing more damage, good, having a larger base range, good, not penalizing primary damage, good, and growing in sizes at levels, good. Fucking hell. What about mana? That's probably any other thing. This should make skills like Heavy Strike, Viper Strike, Glacial Hammer, and Infernal Blade more tempting choices to support and use as area skills. That is good. I hope I get to use a skill or two with Melee Splash involved. Leech, buffed to shit. Life and mana leech granted in the passive skill tree is now much larger. So they still want us to spec into that shit. The strength area of the tree has the highest values, while the dexterity of the tree now includes elemental attack damage as well as physical attack damage as leech granted. Elemental attack damage leech. Well, there it is. Maybe we could actually save a slot on life leech and have leech, and then elemental builds are buffed. That's good news. Duelist now has a combined life and mana leech cluster to reduce the travelling distance required to make the best use of leech. Am I muted, by the way? No. Okay. Just in case, because I feel like I may have pressed the mute. Anyway. Surgeon's Flask. Nerf but not retroactively. Surgeon Flask mods now grant a chance to gain a charge on critical strike rather than unconditionally granting one. So that was the Flask we already saw previewed, basically. This will not change Flask mods spawned before the deployment of 2.1. They will still work the old way. Really? Legacy Surgeon's Flask? Okay. The Surgeon's mod made many Flasks too easy to keep full for a heavily specialized critical strike character, far beyond what was originally intended. Really. Players today have many more options to reach very high values of critical strike chance, attack, and cast speeds than when the mod was created. These stats all have a compounding effect on the power of the Flask. Yeah, so that means essentially it'll still be possible, I think, to be like perma full with the right builds, like cast on crit cycling should still be able to pull it off, for example. But not every build will make use of surgeons anymore. Legacy surgeons though, what the fuck is that about? If that stays the way it is, like, you know, give it another year's time or something, you're gonna be selling Quicksilver Flasks with Surgeon's mod on it for like an exalt. No worries. Mana per level, melee mana costs buffed. Mana per level and melee mana costs buffed. Okay, players now gain more mana every time they level up. Dope. Most melee attack skills no longer increase in mana cost as they level. Thank fucking god. These changes are to allow mana to be used more reliably by late game builds that don't have high amounts of intelligence, as blood magic was a prevalent way to use almost every melee attack later in the game. True that. I wonder if they're going to change Aeron Jewelry then, or if that is going to be the new standard for every single build. Still, fuck mana. And Aeron Jewelry, Master Ace. Oh my god, that's a lot of reading. Alright, what's next? Point Blank buffed. Meh. Point Blank was one of the least used Keystone passives. So we have reduced its damage penalty to be less punishing. It now retains its damage bonus over a longer distance, and now only scales down to 50% less damage instead of 100%. Not sure that's going to really change anything. Because ideally you still want to be using it up close, that's why you take it. This should make it a more tempting choice for players who want a riskier, deadlier, up close and personal bow build. Yeah, like I don't think it's going to change too much, honestly, but whatever, point blank's not for me. Bow and bow skills buffed. Many bow skills have been reviewed and shifted in balance slightly, with almost all of them being increased in power. Like early game, right? This includes the return of additional radius per gem level, and an extra 10% more damage to Rain of Arrows to bring it close to the power of the new Blast Rain skill. These changes result in players having stronger skill choices when playing bow characters. We've also increased the damage of the lower level bows and increased the required level of the first quiver. So the quivers aren't required for an enjoyable first few levels on a bow character. Increase the required level of the first quiver. So they're saying they basically put that damage into the low level bows, so that it's still similar. Something tells me they're going to mess this up and it's still going to feel shit. But bow skills, if they're getting buffed overall in the end game, that's insane, because bows is fucking insane right now. It's still one of the strongest things. Why would you buff everything? You just need to buff like the early game. Yeah. Whatever, I guess. Poison Arrow, nerfed due to new passives and supports now working with it. Because we've introduced a whole new set of chaos damage passives and supports, Poison Arrow's damage has been reduced to bring it in line with other skills when it makes good use of new support gems and passives. It has also been renamed Caustic Arrow. I don't really care about that. Yeah, I know some people will be mad. But sounds like it should still work, just maybe not as strong. And you need more things to make it work. Don't know. 6-link will probably be more important than ever before. Poison Arrow. Flame Totem, early game nerf, late game buff. Late game buff? Flame Totem was a little too powerful early on, so has been reduced in damage at lower levels. Its damage is very slightly higher at higher levels. Why? Anyone? Anyone know why? That they give Flame Totem more damage in the end game? Too weak was it? Not good enough? Could only do Uber Theory? Could only get like 160k tooltip per totem? Apparently that's shit. Still powerful early. Yeah, by its very nature it still has to be powerful early. Because you throw it down when you're doing nothing with your spells anyway, so it's just free damage. SRS, early game buff, late game nerf for certain characters. Dope, I don't care. Raging Spirits have been completely rebalanced with a faster cast speed, longer duration, and greatly improved AI. Makes it much easier to hit the limit of the number of Raging Spirits available at once. Damage has also been adjusted to compensate. Anyone mad? Someone's gotta be mad, right? Bot. Ban. It says completely rebalanced, so it sounds like you have to wait and see what that really means. So, they could have accidentally buffed it for all we know. Razor Zombie buffed. Razor Zombies now have faster attack speed and will occasionally use an AoE slam that damages enemies in a small area. Oh, that's nifty. To make them less reliant on melee splash, they also have a naturally higher stun threshold, so they're less likely to be stunned out of an attack. That's alright. I don't mind that. Maybe I'll even touch a zombie for once in my life. I used to have it as part of my builds, but just dropped it off. Raise Spectre buffed at lower levels. Now has a lower penalty on life and energy shield at lower levels, as Spectres raised at low levels died too early. Fair enough, I'm sure it's not going to change too much. Incinerate, nerfed. Just plain nerfed. No late game, no lower game, nerfed. Incinerate now receives less of a bonus per stage as its damage is too high. Its general damage has been rebalanced, resulting in less overall damage at higher levels. Skill is dealing far too much damage once fully charged, trivializing some endgame content. There were some significant community demands for the skill to be adjusted. If I were a betting man, I'd say Incinerate's probably going to be pretty much unusable. I don't know what the numbers are, I can't predict that, but from reading that, I reckon they're going to over-nerf it to unusable levels. And it's not going to be used. At least, not commonly, would be my guess. You'd probably go Flame Totem instead. Incinerate dead. Hey, take it out of context. I said, that's my guess. Cyclone slightly nerfed. There was a display bug that caused Cyclone to show the wrong DPS value and attack speed. Okay, we have fixed this bug so you now notice the visual DPS almost double and the attack speed and the gems shoot up a lot. In addition, we have reduced the damage of Cyclone by around 10% and reduced the damage of its initial hit. Even after this change, Cyclone is still one of the strongest melee skills in the game. It just doesn't outdamage Heavy Strike for single target damage anymore. That's not changing shit, to be perfectly frank. Reducing its damage by 10% or whatever, and initial hit by a bit less. Doesn't get damaged by Heavy Strike, it doesn't matter. It's still just going to be the best skill in the game for single target. It's going to shit all over Heavy Strike, because with Heavy Strike it's stand still and hit and knock things out of your way, and it doesn't work in the end game. And it's still perfectly fine for everything else, cast on crit and all that. Cyclone Master Race, you heard it here. Not first, probably you heard it everywhere else, but you're hearing it again, and always. Magma Orb and Arc buffed. Magma Orb now gains an additional chain when the gem reaches a certain level. That might actually make it feel good. And Arc gains additional chains more frequently. This is because the damage penalty of the chain support gem didn't justify the additional targets hit. So in practical usage, these skills didn't scale the number of targets hit as well as other skills did. That's fine. Not sure Arc really needed a buff, but hey, my cast on crit cycling doesn't mind at all. Magma Orb, shit, maybe I can even throw that into the cast on crit cycling if it, like, chains or something now. Who knows? But Magma Orb, that sounds pretty good. Might be worth using. Searing Bond buffed, lol. Searing Bond can place up to one additional totem. This means you can have 2 Searing Bond totems active without Ancestral Bond and can use Searing Bond in addition to another totem skill. But at earlier levels, this lets it work well alongside Flame Totem rather than directly competing with it as a choice to use. Searing Bond and Flame Totem leveling Master Race now? Probably. Are we willing to make that call? Yeah. Well, there it is. There's your balance changes. I'm sure there's more things that are going to be like slightly adjusted. As they said, most spells and all that get adjusted. But some good things, some bad things, some useless things to be